This week, it may actually be harder to figure out who to start at quarterback and tight end with all the injuries that we have rather than running back and receiver. I mean, starting off at the quarterback position, tier one, not going to change too much. We will have Mahomes, Allen, Lamar. Yes, Lamar is going to be sneaking up here 2-3. We'll have Lamar ahead of Jalen Hurts. The reason we're going to have Jalen Hurts down here at 4 is, one, the matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are 29th in points allowed to opposing quarterbacks so far this season. Obviously, this is one of the better defenses in the NFL. And not only that, but at the same time, Jalen Hurts is injured. Jalen Hurts had 4 rushing attempts last week. Jalen Hurts is on the injury report. Clearly is running the ball less. And Jalen Hurts was my quarterback 1 coming into the season. I hope that this gets sorted out soon. I hope that Jalen Hurts is able to get fully healthy and we get Jalen Hurts running the ball 7-8 times per game. But at least in this week, I'll say probably move him down to being that QB4 overall in our rankings. Now, QB5 overall with Joe Burrow will be a little bit tough to rank. And that Burrow looked fully healthy last week, right? I mean, we can safely say, yes, Joe Burrow is back. If you look at the spread against Buffalo here, you have the Cincinnati Bengals as 2.5-point favorites. And if you're looking at implied team totals this week, you have the Chiefs at 1 against Miami and then the Bengals at 2. So Vegas sportsbooks are telling us that the Bengals will have no issue whatsoever scoring the ball. But maybe I'm just a little hesitant in it in that if you do look at Buffalo, they're 31st in points allowed at the quarterback position so far this season. So typically quarterbacks don't do well against the Bills. But you know what is more predictive of success this week rather than past defensive results? What Vegas sportsbooks are telling us. So we're still going to play Joe Burrow. We're going to listen to the implied team total. Going over to our next guy, we're going to be looking at Tua here. With Tua going up against KC, very tough defense for opposing quarterbacks as well, at least so far this season. Now, if you're going to look at the spread, you have the Dolphins as 2.5-point dogs. But this should be one of the highest scoring games of the week, if not the highest scoring game of the week against the Kansas City Chiefs. And maybe you actually have the Miami Dolphins having to throw the ball in the second half because typically we know it's a team that is able to just run it with their large lead. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we will go with Justin Herbert at 7. Herbert, tough matchup going up against the Jets. I mean, this is a quarterback that's actually given you a considerable amount of points so far this season. Even if he's been maybe disappointing from a real-life perspective, I don't know if you want to blame the, I want to say, lack of success at the wide receiver position with the injury to Mike Williams and Quentin Johnston doing nothing. I don't know if you want to blame the Austin Eckler injury. Regardless, I mean, this offense isn't as good as we are expecting coming into the season. Still think that I'm completely fine to go out there and start Justin Herbert, though. He's been great. It is a tough matchup, but he's Justin Herbert. Dak Prescott will be our next quarterback at 8. Dak Prescott, phenomenal week this past week. Now, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, he's a 3-point dog. The Eagles are the 4th team in points allowed to opposing quarterbacks. Keep in mind, a lot of this has to do with the fact that the Eagles can get up big, and then you maybe have the opposing offense just having to go out there and having to throw the ball in the second half, which very easily could be the case here with the Dak Prescott Dallas Cowboys. Now, our next tier will be led off with Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a 9-point favorite over the Chicago Bears. They have the 3rd highest implied team total of any team in the NFL this week, with 25 points, only behind the Chiefs and Bengals. Now, the issue that you have with Derek Carr is Taysom Hill, someone we'll talk about with the tight end rankings, has just been such a pain in the butt in that he is stealing those touchdowns in the red zone. Also, on top of this, we can assume, just given how bad the Chicago Bears offense should be, where if you're looking at their implied team total, they're only supposed to score about 16 points. You could have the New Orleans Saints deciding to slow the game down in the second half to just consistently run it with a combination of Alvin Kamara, maybe Jamal, maybe Miller, we don't know just yet, and then also Taysom Hill here. So I don't know. I am not too excited about the fact that this game's not really going to be competitive. But you should have a lot of points scored in New Orleans, and there aren't too many quarterbacks we can be excited about this week. Now, Gardner Minshew as our next quarterback. Obviously, the Carolina Panthers defense just shut down CJ Stroud, and the Panthers have actually been pretty damn good. The Panthers are 25th in points allowed to the quarterback position so far this season. A big reason for that is because they allow all the points to opposing running backs. Now, if you're looking at the implied team total, you have 23.5 points for the Indianapolis Colts, only behind Buffalo, Miami, Baltimore, Philly, New Orleans, Cincinnati, and KC. So Vegas is saying that they're going to score a considerable amount of points. At the same time, if you're looking at what we've had with Gardner Minshew as of late, I mean, obviously he's not a consistent rushing quarterback. It's not like we're expecting to go out there and average 8-9 carries per game, but he has shown that he's willing to run the ball some. I don't even want to go there. Obviously, 2 weeks ago he ran it, but honestly, no, outside of that, just complete outlier. Ignore that I even said it. Now, C.J. Stroud will be our next quarterback at 11. With Stroud, really disappointed us last week. I mean, I was excited to see him go up against Bryce Young. I thought we were going to get one hell of a game. And C.J. Stroud coming out of the bye only gave you 140 passing yards. And now it's back-to-back weeks for Stroud with fewer than 200 passing yards. But he did get you the rushing touchdown this past week. Still a quarterback that you're not super excited about the overall rushing projection. But he's a quarterback that we can confidently say, okay, he's probably pretty good. Vegas is telling us his offense is going to be pretty good this week. So, I mean, it's hard to just completely ignore him. Now, going down to our next tier, we'll go to Deshaun Watson at 12. The Cleveland Browns offense projects out to be pretty damn good. They are 7.5 point favorites over the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the issue is we just don't know if Deshaun Watson's going to play or not. At the time of this recording, I mean, it is an uncertainty. He did practice on Wednesday in a limited fashion. But even if Deshaun Watson does play this week, and even if this is a phenomenal matchup, I don't necessarily know if we can come out here and say that Deshaun Watson is exactly the quarterback that you drafted him to be. He's not clearly healthy. So I don't know. I have a hard time going through and ranking him as a top 10 option. We don't even know if he's going to play. Sam Howell will be our next guy. With Sam Howell, I mean, he falls behind in games, throws the ball a lot, right? The question is, does he continue to go out there and have 40, 50 passing attempts per game? Probably hard to project out, especially against New England here, where New England's a slower offense. Well, at the same time, I mean, they themselves are ineffective at scoring the football. I mean, you have 308 passing attempts for Sam Howell so far this season. You have 2 games with over 50 passing attempts. You have another 2 games with over 40, another game with 39. I just don't know if this is going to be a high enough scoring game where we can say that Sam Howell is going to continue this type of production. This game does have one of the lowest over-unders of any game this week. Then Jordan Love will be our next guy at 14. With Love going up against the Rams, I mean, obviously the Cowboys just crushed the Rams, and really we are uncertain with Stafford. I mean, based off the report that we got earlier in the week, I thought Stafford was going to play this week. Looks like that may no longer be the case. Kind of hope Stafford plays if you're playing Jordan Love. That way, I mean, it's a little more competitive in a higher scoring game overall. Now, Will Levis will be our next quarterback in here at 15. I want to reiterate, I am rooting for Will Levis more than anybody else. We interviewed him at the draft. Super nice guy. I'm rooting for him harder than Tennessee Titans fans are. Now, with that being said, we can look at the fact that they have a 17-point implied team total. Vegas sportsbooks are telling us it will be the 4th worst offense in the NFL this week. If you look at his underdog pick'em, they have met 202 passing yards and 215.5 total yards. So Vegas sportsbooks, underdog projection makers, people that are significantly smarter than I am, are saying this is someone we cannot trust in a tough matchup against Pittsburgh. I am hoping that they are wrong, and I'm really rooting for the upside case of Will Levis. But for me to go out there and rank a quarterback on a rush first team that has a bottom 5 implied team total inside the top 12 would be reckless, even though I am rooting for the guy. And I will say, as I am rooting for the guy, that I really do like taking the more than 215.5 total yards on Underdog Fantasy with Will Levis this week. I'd be looking to pair that up with the Terry McLaurin fewer than 59.5 receiving yards and the Derrick Henry more than half a rushing yard as well. If you want to check out any of those pick'ems, if you want to get the Derrick Henry more than less than half a total yard, you can find that link in the description in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK and you get a 100% deposit match and our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. Now, our next tier will go Bryce Young, 16. Young showed something last week, just obviously horrible situation. Kenny Pickett at 17. I think most people would actually rather have Kenny Pickett over Will Levis. Just a little bit biased. Kenny Pickett not fully healthy, hard for me to get there. And then Geno going up against Baltimore. Baltimore has been the best defense in the NFL so far this season against opposing quarterbacks. So I am a little hesitant to go out there and tell you to start Geno Smith, even if he has great weapons. Now, going over to tight end, not going to waste your time. Kelsey Andrews, let's move on. Okay, then after that, this next tier will be a little bit tougher. Y'all know typically we have TJ Hawkinson in the same tier of Mark Andrews. I don't think we can do it anymore. I mean, I understand a lot of people are saying, Mason, TJ Hawkinson's not going to be affected by the Kirk Cousins injury. I have no idea what you're smoking. I promise you we will be. I love TJ Hawkinson. He was my most drafted Minnesota Viking this year. But ultimately, this is going to be a horrendous offense, and TJ Hawkinson will be hit. You have an applied team total of 16.5 points. The only teams that are projected out to be a worse offense this week in the NFL, according to Vegas Sportsbooks, are the Chicago Bears and the Arizona Cardinals. That is not something you can be excited about, ladies and gentlemen, and is very tough to get behind Hawkinson. Dalton Kincaid will be our next guy at tight end 4. The Cincinnati Bengals have allowed the most points to opposing tight ends all season. Great matchup. A tight end getting all the volume with the Dawson Knox injury in an elite level offense in a very high scoring game environment. Yes, please go through and start Dalton Kincaid. Now, I will say, if you come out and ask me in a live stream and send me your team and go, what do we do? And you're rostering both Travis Kelce and Dalton Kincaid, or both Mark Andrews and Dalton Kincaid, I'll probably tell you to sell Dalton Kincaid and go get an upgrade elsewhere in your starting lineup. It's not because I have anything against Kincaid. It's more so because, come on, we don't really need to put him in our flex spot. If we have Kelsey Andrews, just sell the guy. Now, Dallas Goedert will be our next tight end at 5, with Goddard getting consistent target volume in a great offense. I know he wasn't great last week, but I'm still buying into him going forward. Now, dropping down to our next tier, this is where things get very, very muddied. We're going to actually have a 2-tier drop here. And we're going to go Jake Ferguson, Trey McBride, Dalton Schultz, and Kyle Pitts. Ferguson is in a good offense and an okay matchup, and maybe he can start being more efficient with his targets. McBride is a tight end that I want to get very excited about rest of season. The issue is, this projects out to be the worst offense in the NFL this week. And so far, Cleveland has allowed the fewest points of any tight end so far this year. Dalton Schultz is whatever. Hopefully the touchdown efficiency stays up. And then with Kyle Pitts, it's kind of whatever. You have Taylor Heineke coming in. Hopefully Taylor Heineke can give you something. Now going over to our next guy, we're going to be looking at Cole Kmet here. And with Cole Kmet, this is a tight end that's been actually pretty damn good. The issue is right now you have the Chicago Bears projected out as the second worst offense in the NFL this week. We have no idea how they are going to get there when they are 9-point dogs. I believe this is the largest spread of any game this week. And it's just really hard to project out any touchdown upside with Kmet here. Now, Taysom Hill will be our next guy at 11. And with Taysom, I want to reiterate, if you were playing in a non-PPR format, then you move him higher than this. I'm making these rankings for a full PPR league where the lack of involvement as a receiver would make it very difficult to get super excited about Taysom Hill. David Njoku will be that next guy. With Njoku, I mean, this is a tight end going up against Arizona where I want to be very excited about the volume, but ultimately at the end of the day, while Njoku has crushed over the past 2 weeks, we don't really know what the quarterback situation is going to be like. And on top of that, going up against the Arizona Cardinals, while the Cardinals have a bad defense overall, the Cardinals are second to last in points allowed so far this season to the tight end position. So it's not necessarily a defense that we want to be attacking with tight end overall. But I mean, you can't start him. And then Logan Thomas is kind of whatever, right? I'm not too excited about this Washington team. And I understand that a lot of these guys have been getting there as of late, but that's when Sam Howell has 52 pass attempts. It's when he has 42 pass attempts. You know, in a blowout loss, Sam Howell maybe can rack up 400 passing yards. Do I expect that to happen against the Patriots? No, I don't. Now, going down to our next tier, we'll go Luke Musgrave has a good matchup against the Rams. Obviously, someone that's hard to get there with, dealing with injuries. Michael Mayer hasn't really broken out. Maybe the new coaching staff decides to start using him more. Jonnu Smith is someone that's operating in that tight end by committee with Kyle Pitts. I mean, I don't really know what the ceiling is. And then Gerald Everett is Gerald Everett. You have Donald Parham. I mean, both these guys are operating in tight end by committees, right? And I don't want to be starting a running back in a committee, let alone a tight end in a committee. But maybe you have to, because this week it is just Disgusting with these injuries and buys. Hopefully these rankings were able to help you out though. And of course, if they were, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. And if these didn't help you, go to the comment section. Let me know how stupid I am. Yeah, and if you wanted to go follow me with that underdog pick'em this week, we're going to go with fewer than 59.5 total yards for Terry McLaurin. We're going to be going with more than 215.5 total yards for Will Levis, and then more than half a total yard for Derrick Henry. That's $10 to win 60. And of course, if you wanted to check that out and get that Derrick Henry special pick'em, promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, link in the description, link in the comment section. Code FLOCK is going to get the Derrick Henry special pick'em plus a 100% deposit match and our rest of season rankings and tiers. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day, and really hope we get to see you out in the live stream later tonight.